Hello. So, for about 6 years, when I was 18 to about 24 years old, I relied heavily on public transportation. This was because I didn't have a car and was basically living a transient, wild life. I stayed between friends' houses, and when I did have my own place, I rarely spent any time at home. So, I've had quite the experience with public transportation system in Buffalo, and to be honest, it was not a very good experience. It's tough to say that the system was not safe, but there were definitely shady characters and some unwanted attention when I was riding, but that can happen anywhere. The drivers were definitely safe, though. I rarely had a bus driver that drove like a maniac or made some terrible traffic decision that could have put the passengers or other drivers' lives in danger. As far as cleanliness, the buses had an overall gunk. That's the best way I can put it. It was like a film of dirt, scummy feeling on everything, and they didn't always smell very great. And there was usually food wrappers on the floor here and there. On the other hand, the metro grosses me out really bad. It always smelled like urine. Not just the cars, but the stations themselves. It was just like a giant porta potty. It was very disgusting. Everything was filthy. There were loogies all over. I even saw a guy literally lean over and spit in the car that I was in, and just right there in front of me. It was disgusting. And I would have to say that the system is not efficient. The metro is only completely full during sporting events and sometimes rush hour, but there's a lot of empty cars that go back and forth all day for the most part. And for the buses, it doesn't seem like they were efficient anywhere outside of the inner parts of Buffalo, especially Elmwood Village. With all the people living in the suburbs, those buses should be filled a lot more than they were and are, but they just aren't appealing enough. So there's a lot of money wasted on paying drivers, and the fuel and overall upkeep of the buses. So I honestly dreaded being dependent on public transportation, especially when I lived in the suburbs. It would make me not want to go out and be social. I was late for work more times than I should have been because a bus was late or just drove right past me. It does happen. It was an overall terrible experience for me, and I dreamt of having my own car every day during that time. Another issue with the public transportation system is the lack of adequate facilities. Main bus depots, especially the one downtown, are breeding grounds for shady characters. I never felt comfortable at one, especially at night. And of course, the worst part about most bus stops is that most of them are completely exposed to the elements. So you could be standing outside in polar conditions because it's Buffalo, or during a rainstorm, and you just have to sit there and take it. Because God forbid you stay in a building for shelter and try to spot the bus coming, 90% of the time you're going to miss it. It was so frustrating. I don't think the bus system is practical, but I do really enjoy the idea of the underground rail car route, the metro. It's unrealistic to think that above ground public transportation vehicles would be or would ever have their very own lanes, especially in Buffalo. But I love the fact that the rail cars don't have to worry about getting stuck in traffic or stopping at lights and having to idle and waste a ton of gas and pollute the city even more. For me, there's absolutely no way I can rely on our public transportation system, the current system, with my lifestyle. I literally plan my day to the exact minute, especially during school. But with school, work, babysitting, helping my family, and carting around my hockey equipment to sometimes 3 different rinks in a single week, there's absolutely no way. But I also know that this won't be my lifestyle forever. And when I finally finish school and buy a house closer to the city, I would love to utilize public transportation as often as possible. One of the perks that make me crave using public transportation more often is that it would ease up on some of the wear and tear that my poor car has had to endure due to the terrible road conditions in Western New York. In 2 years, I've lost 3 tires to potholes, so not having to deal with that, at least not as often, is incredibly appealing. As far as recommendation, I would say that if you're somebody that has a lot of extra time on their hands and you don't have to travel very far or very often, I'd say go for public transportation just because it's much better for the environment. But if you don't have any extra time, which is the case for most people, and you don't mind filth and getting heckled on occasion, I would say go for it. I think that Buffalo needs a better system, without a doubt. I personally would love to see bus lanes or an underground subway system, but I would like to know if there are any plans being discussed with the powers that be to create a better public transportation system in Buffalo. And if there are plans, I would like to know what the plans are and if there are any public meetings or if there's any way that I could follow their progress. Thank you.